love that music. Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot with Penny Bradley. And today my guest is Ileana the Star Traveler, who has a website and her own YouTube channel where she delves into both psychic and 3D real experiences throughout the galaxy. Some are related to her service in space, and some are related to her psychic experiences. And she and I have been friends since we both came public, and she's a well-known figure in our SSP and Super Soldier community, and I'm most honored to have her on my show today. Ileana, you want to introduce yourself to the folks who don't know you?
Hi, my name is Ileana. I am what is termed a star traveler. So I've had memory recalls of being an SSP asset. That's what I term a civilian being in the SSP, being taken off world from Earth and doing a 60 and back on Mars and also in Nacht Waffen, which is the German Dark Fleet. The equivalent, we call it Nacht Waffen. That's the German name for it. So most of my SSP service was done on the Mars basis with the planetary corporations, which is a bunch of corporations from Earth and also the off-world civilizations. So they have affiliates and aerospace contractors that are part of planetary corporations. They contribute different technologies, different knowledge, both on Earth and off-world. Planetary corporations is based on Mars. They have military bases and research bases. So that's primarily where I was, and they also have their own Mars defense space orbital platforms where SSP assets serve. I primarily served in the cybernetics labs, building biological human cyborgs, working with the holographic medical pods, biological drug serums, basically medical research and medical implementation, and also building the smart suits and augmenting cyborgs with Neuralink implants. So that's the bulk of my work for planetary corporations. And the way I got those memories back was half of it through memory recall and half of it through self-hypnosis, because I'm a professional hypnosis practitioner. So I'm certified to help SSP assets regain their memories back through hypnosis and through memory recall procedures. So that's basically my job, how I help other SSP assets. I also counsel SSP assets. So that's primarily what I do now, because I've been able to work through my own memories and get about 90% of what I did on Mars and with Nacht Waffen. And with Nacht Waffen, I was an assassin. I was a trained assassin, and I would be on different ships in different planets, I would regain back advanced technologies that were stolen by ETs and some of the other SSP factions. So I would broker peace deals with Nacht Waffen. I would do assassination as I was trained to do. I worked with crystalline swords, laser, phaser, and plasma rifles and guns. So Nachtwaffen was much more out in the field and much more recovering advanced technologies, recovering people or removing people where they're not supposed to be. That's part of the assassin stuff that I used to do. It's not always kill the person and remove all the evidence. Sometimes it's retrieve the person, retrieve the information, bring it back, so there's no evidence left of whatever was not supposed to have happened. So that's basically my SSP in a nutshell, my SSP memories and what I was and what I did.
Okay, well, that was what we wanted to talk about today was the SSP memories um, from Mars and elsewhere. And for the folks who came into this show from the one prior, my personal service was with Nacht Waffen, the Germans in space, and in that first 655 and back that I did, I served exclusively with the Germans, and that alter only speaks German, although since we've reintegrated, she's learning English. And they operate very differently than how most people on Earth think they do. And so it's my biggest challenge has been explaining that difference in a way that people who have been subjected to 70 years of propaganda can wrap their minds around it. At the same time, um, my personal goal is to see the child kidnapping stopped. So I know I was kidnapped when I was 4 and put through mind control um, and weaponized. And I also have an alter who is an assassin but works for the CIA. So this is very common among SSP assets. No matter what faction you worked for, you have alters who are assassins, you have alters who are sex kittens, you have alters who are warriors, you have alters who work in various technical areas. My technical area was that I was a navigator who took the entire ship into hyperspace and then brought them out without them being in a physical object when we came out. So that was my particular expertise. But we're here to talk about Ileana today. So
Yeah,
you want you
my
want to start with when you were initially taken and what country you were in and that that sort of stuff.
yeah, I wanted to touch base a little bit on the child kidnapping. Um, that experience happened to me, but I was taken by reptilians into underground bases near Rostov. That's former USSR. For anybody in Europe, that's the location, and it was underground basis where they experimented on my autoimmune system and put in subdermally into the bloodstream nanotechnology, nanobots, and that basically ruined my autoimmune system. I wasn't kidnapped by the three-letter agencies like the CIA. Those were reptilians that kidnapped me, Black Drazo and Shrub Invictus. Those are the two types of reptilian species that experimented on my human body and ruined my autoimmune system. So I was supposed to die when I was 4. I was paralyzed in the hospital with a high fever after that abduction in the bases. I saw children chained to the walls of the cavern near the base. waiting to be experimented on. And these are human bases lent out to the reptilians. So there was human personnel there as well, but they ignored me. They let the reptilians experiment on me. But I survived. My autoimmune system was damaged. I did recover after 2.5 weeks in the hospital, but I wasn't the same anymore. So I could speak, I could walk, talk, but I did have brain damage. So I was a very smart kid before this happened. Afterwards, my math skills were horrid in problem solving. So anything to do with mathematics, hard equation stuff, don't ask me that. My brain doesn't compute that properly. Anything else, my intelligence is very high and it works great, except for math and higher complex equations. Like, don't ask me anything physics, or it takes me time to process anything like that. So ETs also abduct humans, and it's clandestine black ops organizations that human factions participate in on Earth in the DUMBs underground bases in very remote locations. For me, that was somewhere near Rostov. Um, so that's how all this started. That was before the SSP. And from the age of 10 to 12, I participated in Monarch Solutions. So what they do, that's the prep before the SSP stuff to break you down. And that was near somewhere the Sierra and Madre Mountains in a remote location, forested area. There was a cabin, a log cabin there, and there were kind of like what I think is a jacuzzi or something where they drown you underwater. They put your head underwater and see how long you can last before you pass out. And they do that over and over again to train you to not feel pain, to not feel emotion, and it breaks you down for this training to toughen you up.
Well, I had similar done to me by the CIA at Langley, and I'm a generation older than you are. So
mm,
um, that was what they started my mind fracture with, was drowning in a tub. And I found out later that it was to teach me to breathe underwater, because the regeneration technology that I was going to be exposed to involved breathing in a gel. So,
yeah, it's to toughen you to be in tougher environments, like drowning you and seeing how long you can stay underwater, breathe before you pass out. And after that was done, they started training me how to open natural portals with my psychic abilities, just with the mind focusing on the energy in the forest and opening a portal gateway, stepping into the portal, holding the energies of the portal while you travel from point A, somewhere to point B, C, or E, wherever the programming is for the portal that you program in the coordinates. So this takes a lot of skill and psychic practice and development. So I used to do this over and over and over and over for like almost 2 years in Monarch Solutions. And that was again near Sierra Madre Mountains, somewhere that's kind of near California, near Nevada. So somewhere in between Sierra Madre Mountains, if you look at a map of it. So that's where that was. And again, this is off the books, some type of cabin in a very remote area in the woods. So it's not accessible easily to anybody. That's the perfect training ground for that type of stuff to happen in, I would
well,
say.
mine was in the basement of an old building. I'm not sure exactly where it was on Langley Base, but I was taken there before the current CIA building was even built. So I know it was not that one.
Yeah, because now the CIA, FBI, they now have their own training facilities on
Mhm.
wherever their facilities are. So it's controlled on site now in the special rooms and the special sections. So it's not even in rural areas anymore. It's always on sites or underground their surface facilities.
I'm pretty sure most of their facilities are now underground.
Mm-hmm.
That's what one of my other guests has discussed is Sunny Irvin has talked about lots of underground facilities that are being hidden through the phone company, the water company, um, all kinds of public utilities are disguises for these underground facilities.
Yeah, and they have deep underground shafts and elevators that go down. So, and the maglev trains, and even more advanced underground kind of, it's not railroad anymore, it's magnetic. So
Mhm.
it's magnetic anti-gravity maglev. It's better than maglev. You're put in a pod and it transitions you to go from point A to point B, from one base to another underground. So it's
Mhm.
all underground in its electromagnetic gravitic field that this pod is on, and it travels. And before that, it was the maglev trains that
Yeah.
connected the bases, but it's been upgraded to this electromagnetic platform where the pod just sits on it and smoothly floats
I
where you need.
understand that the older maglev technology has been passed over to Elon Musk.
I don't know. All I know is that NORAD, Canada, United States, they were all connected by the maglev underground tunnels, and now it's connected by this electromagnetic platform field that's connecting the tunnels now where the pods are. And you get into the pod and you can seat like up to, there's different types of pods, 2, 4, 5, 10 people, and it just travels where it needs to go from base to base. And it's all over the United States. It goes to Cheyenne Mountain, where there's a huge base in the mountain. So these pods interconnect, and they've replaced the maglev trains. And also, there's portal sequences along the way in these tunnels. So it could actually, this pod can go through the portal and transport you off through Jumpway Gateway portal that's connecting the tunnel system, and you end up on Mars and you don't even know it. And it's like a 2-minute ride.
Well, it's not just Mars that they go to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other places too.
Yeah, but the closest location is Mars and the moon. So it's like portal you in through the pod, and the pod comes out in another tunnel system on another planet.
Yeah.
And you're like, everything looks the same underground. So it looks gray. So you have no clue where you're at. You've just been transported off world through teleport tech.
Well, the technology that creates the tunnels themselves, not the portals, but tunnels that the trains are in, uh, actually melts
Mm-hmm.
the rock. So you end up with this super shiny wall that's from the melted wall turning into like a glass.
Yeah, and the older tech was burrowing
Hmm.
technology that had huge moving bits and parts, like it would dig deep down underground. And there's also lava tubes, natural lava tubes, a lot on Mars and the moon
Hmm.
that you could carve out even more and use for bases, laboratories, research facilities. So those are being used in underground cavern systems, like huge cavern systems. So because Earth is honeycombed, it's not all molten lava.
Yeah.
There's a lot of underground spaces, natural spaces that are huge. So you can utilize them to build bases. You can put stuff in a trench deep under the ocean and build domed bases, which
Well,
they also have.
I understand that a lot of those larger honeycomb spaces are filled with other races
Yes, they
because
are.
humans are not the first sentient race on the planet.
No, we've had many ancient civilizations here, and then they've branched off to off-world civilizations, but some still remain because they consider this their home. But they're deep underground, or what we call inner earth, or they're deep underwater in the under the oceans,
Mhm.
in these trenches and stuff. Because what they can do, they have technology that's domed. It's electromagnetic shielding, dome shielding, that protects whatever structure is built inside the dome. And you
Yeah.
can activate and deactivate the dome, come in and out, and you're safe. You're safe from being detected by satellites, by radar. You're safe from being hit by asteroids, meteorites, because the dome shielding protects the base itself. It repels um, detection, and it's also invisible, so the base is not seen. You can't detect the base with anything. So that's what makes that technology very advanced, and that's what the Mars bases, Planetary Corporation PLC bases, they're covered by these electromagnetic dome shielding. That's protecting them from being detected and hit by space junk or planetary bodies like asteroids, comets, or meteorites.
I just checked live feed to see if we had questions. We don't.
Okay.
A couple of comments, but they were related to the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So, do you have any questions or comments for me that you'd like for me to specifically discuss?
well, you did talk about the cybernetic labs and in your introduction, and I know the Nacht Waffen experience of cyborgs is different from planetary corporations' experience of cyborgs. In Nacht Waffen, the civilians all have a servant that appears to be a robot, but actually has part of a human brain inside it. Now, it's almost completely robotic, and the German civilians consider them to be robots and are basically not even told there's an actual human inside. They're told it's a special kind of AI that and has a emotional component. So they're not aware that their robot companion servant is actually a trapped human. So I'd like for you to talk about planetary corporations and what they do with cyborgs.
Okay, so Planetary Corporations has the cybernetics labs attached to the Mars bases. So it's two facilities, cybernetics labs, and connects to the Mars bases. So in the cybernetics labs, what they do is take human civilians off world, off Earth, through the quantum leap time dilation technology, time travel, where you have two concurrent timelines, open time streams, open between Earth and Mars. So the time, you might be gone for a day or 5, 10 hours. On Mars, you could have been there for 5 months. So even though it's real here in the now, currently happening through the time dilation technology, they have the Mars jump portal gateway portals, which is technology. They have them on the Mars basis, so they could portal you in from Earth, and it seems like no time has passed when in reality, a couple of hours on Earth might be a couple of days on Mars, just as an equivalent, because of this quantum leap time dilation technology. They're jumpway gateway portals. So you're portaled in on their Mars base. They look at what you're good at for jobs. For me, I have strong psionic abilities, psychic abilities. I can process information quickly. I'm very analytical. I can process any type of information except math, but I'm very intelligent. So because of my psychic abilities to communicate telepathically with almost anything, distance doesn't matter. So I was put in the cybernetics labs and I was given a Neuralink implant, which is nanotechnology. Part of it is nano, part of it is etheric, and it's implanted dermally, again through the skin, goes to your bloodstream, goes to your brain, opens up. There's a electromagnetic field inside the implant. It opens up, and that's what powers the implant. And the rest of the implant has these smooth little nanofibers that are filled with gold, and they connect to the neurons of your brain to activate the implant. And I had 4 of these on the left side of my brain. And what this allowed me to do was to connect to all of the holographic technology on the base, to be able to lock in on different ships that planetary corporations build and test them out with the Neuralink implant, piloting them remotely, the ships, to see how the implant is working, if it's functioning correctly. So tap into the navigation system and pilot the ship remotely without anybody having to be on the ship. Also telepathically communicate with the other cybernetics technicians in the lab who have these Neuralink implants, to go back and forth on what we're doing, what projects we're working in the lab. My primary job was monitoring the holographic medical pods, which regrow limbs. They reformat your DNA structure if something's damaged. They reformat the DNA, they heal diseases. And this is done with plasma fields that are connected to the holographic medical pod. So you go in the pod, the glass-like enclosure closes over you. You're in a stasis type of plasma field, and it's healing you. There's also laser technology attached to the holographic medical pod. So if it needs to do keyhole surgery, something to do with surgery, sometimes it does, to close up wounds. It can do it that way organically through the plasma field, but if the damage is too much in the body, they do laser surgery and then remove the scarring. Once that's done, it could also bring people back from the dead. Like, it could literally regenerate your body if there's enough of your body to regenerate, and they have enough of your original DNA on file. They can bring you back and put the soul back into the body. Say if it hasn't been gone for 2 weeks, they can bring the soul back, literally tether it back into the body energetically.
Can you describe the technology in visual terms so that if we were looking at this machine, what would it look like?
So it looks like an elongated pod, like this long cylindrical elongated pod, and it has a bottom base that's silver, and it's on a stand, right? And it has something that's glass-like, but it's not glass, it's something else. And it opens up, and they float the body in because it's using electromagnetic fields and plasma fields. So you're floated in, it closes over you, and it could be programmed remotely by cybernetics technicians to program in whatever they need done, because there's holographic software attached to the pod. So they can program in whatever needs to be done, like regenerating a limb. Say if your hand is cut off, you were in battle, something chomped at you, somebody fired at you, you're missing half your hand, like cut off, gone. As long as they have some part of your healthy DNA on profile, they keep your DNA in the database, your original DNA, because that they extract that when they first take you into service. So they access the DNA stream, input that into the holographic software of the pod, and then it starts to regenerate your missing limb with the plasma field. and it restructures the DNA, the tissue, the bones. It regrows all of it, reconstructs it. And after about 30 minutes to an hour, you have new skin, you have new hand, bones, tissue, everything is regrown. You come out of stasis and come out of the pod and you're done. You can go on your way. So that's what the pod technology does. What the Neuralink implants also allow you to do is upload and download information for training. I'm not a medical technician. I'm not in a medical field, yet I know a lot of medical stuff and very familiar with what biological drug serums are, which is plasma, human, well, on Mars it's synthesized in replicators, and these types of different plasma antibodies allow you to heal the body, regenerate the autoimmune system, get acclimated to being on Mars because it's a heavier gravity and the altitude is heavier. There's less oxygen. So they infuse you with a biological drug serum. It could be plasma, it could be a monoclonal antibody or something else they synthesize to make your body work perfectly on Mars. It also does age regression, and they can change you on the molecular level. They can mix in etDNA to change you, your biology, your molecular structure to look like other ETs and to have the abilities of ETs to self-regenerate the body. So that's something else I know about how biological drug serums work and how genetic manipulation works through the download of that information into my Neuralink implant, literally teaching me how to do a new job.
Where I know that information because in the early 80s, I went to San Diego State and I was a pre-med student. And that's where my background is. That I had an autoimmune disorder, lupus, and that was why I was not allowed to graduate. It was a medical issue, not a grades issue. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always had Hashimoto's encephalopathy. It's an autoimmune disorder. It has to do a bit of with the thyroid, but basically, I've always had it since the age of 4 when the reptilians ruined my autoimmune system. But on Mars, with the biological drug serums, every 3 months, I would have the subdermal infusion of the synthesized plasma from the replicator, and I would feel great because it would literally regenerate my autoimmune system and keep me healthy. And it sometimes they would infuse me with something else other than the plasma to keep me looking young. Like I always looked like 30, but I did a 16 back. So theoretically I should have looked 60, but I never did. So I was kept looking young.
Nacht Waffen had a different technology, but the same outcome. Our regeneration system was a form of black goo that they had taken the sentience out of. So it had been reverted back to its fembot stage. And it was at that point programmable instead of something that was running itself. And you would be in this tank that was 2 meters across and 3 meters deep. And it was not see-through. So you were basically in a place where you had no sensation of any kind, no stimulus. And they would knock you out, but you would wake up inside. And when they became aware that you were awake, they would pull you out and hose you off. And there was a drain so that the fembots would be able to be collected out. And they had to clean this every so often because all of the implants would drop to the bottom during the regen process. So all of your implants had to be reinstalled every time. And um, I remember more than once dying in a mission, waking up inside this dark thing where I felt nothing and wondering if they had actually let me die this time. You know, and that's something that is, you know, it's so shocking to normals that it usually freaks them out when I mention it. But the technology is very different. Yours, they're in stasis the whole time and only woken up when they come out.
Yes, Planetary Corporations also has the regeneration tanks where they have nanotechnology in that and green goo, but you're kept in stasis while you're in the regeneration tank, and that can also regrow limbs. It could heal scars, emotional trauma, brain damage. Um, that's why you're kept in stasis. But because we have Neuralink implants, those implants don't dissolve. They're partially etheric. So whatever is regenerated, the implants don't fall out. They remain where they are. That's the difference. And these regeneration tanks, I don't know, they have the regeneration tanks, the holographic medical pods, and what they also call Meditech units, which is a smaller version of the holographic medical pod. It floats on anti-gravity electromagnetic frequencies, so it floats around. It's portable. So if you're out in the field, something happened to you, you got blasted, you're almost dead, your vital signs are failing, the Meditech unit is your smart suit sends a distress signal to the cybernetics labs, and the Meditech unit comes out from the lab, floats over to you wherever you are. If you're not able to physically get into the Meditech unit, your smart suit also has anti-gravity capability. It could float you off the ground into the Meditech unit, closes up, and takes you back to the cybernetics lab, um, to put you temporarily, it puts you in a stasis field so your vital signs don't drop further. And it could regenerate basic wounds, stop the bleeding, stop you from dying. So it's just basic, keeping you patched up until you get to the holographic medical pod. And sometimes cybernetics technicians do come along with the Meditech unit. If you're gravely injured and you're close to death, then they do other things. They infuse you with biological drugs, serums to keep you alive beyond the Meditech unit stuff. You're still put in the Meditech unit, but they do more to keep you alive. And they transport you back into the cybernetics lab along with the Meditech unit to get you to the pod, holographic medical pod.
What do they do in battle conditions?
Battle conditions? What do you mean?
Um, when I served with the Germans on Mars, we were involved in the Mars War, where we, the German faction and Americans serving under us, were fighting the Mars native raptors and the Mars mantids, and we would have battle conditions where we would have folks so severely wounded that we were under orders to simply decapitate them and bring their heads back for regeneration. And that was how the Germans handled it between 1964 and 1990. So I'm not sure what time frame you're discussing, and it's a different faction with different technology. So you know, my people that I served with, if someone was severely injured in battle, we would simply cut their head off and take it home.
Well, they put the whole body in the Meditech unit. They try to collect as much of what remains there is of the person. If there's a whole body, we prefer the whole body. If there's a head, whatever you have is taken in the Meditech unit. But mostly what I remember is receiving full bodies that are very gravely injured. So with the Meditech unit and putting that into the holographic medical pod, maybe if it's just body parts that were collected, it goes somewhere else, not in my section, because I don't remember just getting body parts. I remember getting the whole body of the person, the super soldier, the biological augmented cyborg, and transferring them from the Meditech unit into the holographic pod for full regeneration. That's what I remember.
And my generation didn't have smart suits. We had motorized external exoskeletons that had their own computer control, so that if, say, I was out in battle and we were stomped and I took the heads of my compatriots and strapped them to me and I ended up dying, then my exosuit would walk me back to camp or base. And then all of us would be put in separate tanks to regenerate.
Yeah, the smart suit can take you back as well. What it's designed to do, because it has its own electromagnetic field around it, so it could float and levitate and even fly if it needs to. It could theoretically transport the body back to the cybernetics labs or the Mars base. For some reasons, they prefer to get the Meditech unit, the portable one, out as fast as they can to put you along with your smart suit inside it, put you in stasis and whoosh, zip you back. So they prefer double protection. Even though the smart suits, because of those electromagnetic fields around it, it camouflages you, can make you invisible. It could even protect you.
That was a really important thing. It can make you invisible.
Yes, it can.
I think people need to hear that point, because they're asking me, how do these people come and abduct you and nobody else sees them?
Well, the electromagnetic field around the smart suit allows you to go through solid objects while you're cloaked and come out on the other side of a solid object, like walk through a wall without being seen or heard by anyone while you're invisible. You're camouflaged, you're shielded. And this electromagnetic field also repels weapons fire, laser, phaser, plasma, and projectile weapons. It repels it. I mean, if you're hit with a dew weapon at full force, like an energetic blast beam from a plasma cannon, that will go through your suit and you'll be like severely wounded and knocked off on the ground. Or if you're being mauled by a bunch of reptoids or reptilians or spiders coming at you, because there's a lot of huge creatures on Mars. If you're being swarmed,
I still have nightmares of those spiders.
Yeah. I mean, they could bite shit off of you.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. They could bite stuff off of you, your limbs. That's why you would need to be regenerated in the first place. So the smart suit is really protective, but if there's a lot coming at the smart suit, like you're attacked by a lot of different creatures, it will penetrate the electromagnetic field if there's too much coming at it. So
it has limits.
Yeah, it has limits. It does not make you mortal and impervious to all attack. If you're blasted with something, an energy beam weapon that's like whoosh, huge, of course it will go through the electromagnetic field. There's only, like, it has some limitation. So sometimes in plasma weapons that you have strapped onto your smart suit, either at the side of the hip or at the back of the suit, or the crystalline swords, those weapons are not enough to prevent a swarming of aggressive ET species that are attacking you for one reason or another. So,
Yeah.
there's different variations and degrees. Like on Mars, I had battle ready training called Viking class. Um, but as a cybernetics technician, I was not expected to go out in the field and fight physically. That was with Nacht Waffen when I was an assassin, and I always wore a smart suit, regardless whether I was in battle or not, assassin or not. My standard uniform was a smart suit, the nanotech smart suit that could mimic clothing, that could camouflage me, protect me. It had the electromagnetic field around it. It wasn't a huge mech suit. When they go out in battle, they have
Yeah.
huge exoskeleton suits and mech suits for battle ready infantry.
Well,
When
I was a generation before yours, and when I went out in battle, it was in the mech suit.
they still
Um,
have mech
we,
suits.
we called them Aegis after the company who builds them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So um, I I want to make it clear for people who think that Ileana and I were supposed to have the same experience. No, I'm damn, I'm almost twice her age. so
Yes.
so we're talking different generations and in different factions with different technologies. Even though we were on the same planet and Ileana has memories of me there, we we did not have the same experiences, and people should not expect us to.
No, because I was a cybernetics technician and I mostly worked in the cybernetics labs or in the Mars bases. I also was a linguist specialist as one of the jobs, communication specialist, aeronautics development with testing out the Neuralink implants with the new ships that they build out, anti-gravity ships that go beyond the speed of light with crystalline engine technology or plasma technology, nacelles, warp nacelles, stuff like that for the ships. For some reason, they took me out of the cybernetics labs and put me in aerospace stuff. So, still on one of the bases, and sometimes I would go on the Mars orbital space station platforms and work in communications there. Um, so it's you do in the 60 and back. I did like close to 10 different jobs. And I do have a timeline development that I put out, and I do have my own terminology that I specifically use. People always, I find this very interesting. People always tell me, oh, you've cribbed up a lot of terminology from the 1980s and 1990s. And I say, no, I didn't. These are specifically my own terms that I got back from memory recall or hypnosis. It took me 2 days to do 6 pages worth of terminology that are specific to planetary corporations.
Yeah, I've seen that video. I You put it out this last week. It's really good.
Yeah, and
I recommend that anyone who's interested in super soldiers or secret space program veterans to listen to that, because it's important and highly relevant information. And just because those terms may have been out there separately, it doesn't mean that you've made them up. These are the English versions of the terminology that we used in space. So you're not making it up. You're not, I mean, I hate to be crude, but you're not pulling it out of your ass.
no, I'm not. The only three terms that I was able to find on the internet was holographic medical pods, regeneration tanks, and space smart suits, because other SSP assets have used that terminology, but not in the same description that I do. All my descriptions are self-written from my notes, hypnosis notes, or memory recall, or because I have messages from a Star Traveler Facebook page.
Mhm.
All that, I keep a blog of all those things that I've experienced. So a lot of the terminology comes from that blog, and I had to like go back and like look through the blog info, like, okay, here's the description of that and that, and I actually backed it up into my computer so I could do a keyword search easily, because in Facebook
Oh,
you can't easily do a keyword
that
search on your
that's
page.
that's a good idea anyway. Facebook got mad at me in 2019 and deleted my 12-year profile. And so anything that you have on Facebook, you have to consider that uh, basically at their whim.
Exactly. YouTube, Facebook, everything is at their whim, and at any time it could still be there or not. So I backed everything up because this is a 6-page terminology glossary. So I'm like, for some of it, I could just sit down and type it out from my head, from my memory. Like, it's still fresh because I have photographic memory. But some of the terminology that's more complex, I really had to go back through my blog notes to like pull out my own terminology from several years back, the description of that. I'm glad I have it backed up because it's 200 something pages worth of blog posts over from 2015 to 2020. So
Well, I've been having issues with aphasia, which is a memory issue where words just flat disappear out of my head. And you'll see in my videos, you'll hear in my radio show where there's times that I just stop. It's I'm literally looking for the word. And so I don't know if that's a function of the stroke I had in labor in 1984 or if it's a function of reintegrating so many alters and the brain hasn't put, you know how a computer will update its system to look for words. I don't think my brain has updated.
yeah,
I think that's the problem. It's that the chunks are coming together, but the search system hasn't updated.
yeah, I can sympathize and relate to you because when my Neuralink implants malfunctioned,
I
those
remember that you had a hell of a time.
yeah, those Neuralink implants were supposed to augment my brain so that I have perfect photographic memory. And when they started failing and leaking the nano and the gold from the fibers connected to my neurons, I started to have memory lapses where I couldn't remember anything, and headaches, such bad headaches. Well, I naturally genetically have a mutation where it's familial hemiplegic migraines type 2. It's a natural mutation. So I have hemiplegic migraines with paralysis, which is stroke like episodes. Um, but when the Neuralink implants started failing, I had memory lapse issues and I couldn't remember anything. So a couple of years after I started doing the self hypnosis,
Mm,
what I look for is actionable medical data. It's
yeah.
like, what are those? Like, I want to know about more about those biological drug serums because I have the term from my memory, but not exactly what it does. So I dug deep. Yes, well, when you're put back from your 60 and back, half of your memories are wiped. So it's not perfect what this stuff
Well,
is.
what I have issues with is they took out faces, they took out people's names, they took away my star charts, they they or they buried them so far I can't access them. They wiped the access parts, so I have a really hard time with words. I still have the complete picture and sensory memory. but the inability to describe it. And so that's why I use simple, plain English, is because those words are blocked.
Yeah.
And especially when the original memories are in German and not standard German, they're in Schwabish, which is a dialect. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell is it that I'm remembering. And at the same time, I'm trying to describe it in English and can't access the vocabulary. And it's sometimes I just get so angry. And then when I'm angry, I shift altars. And it's obvious. I've had people that I've interviewed on my channel tell me afterwards, we really need to talk about you shifting altars during an interview. And I'm like, I warned you ahead of time that I do this.
Yeah, and I know this about you. For me, I've never had alters. It's always just been me experiencing everything. So I think that's a little different from you because I don't have alters coming in, out, integrating, causing me problems. I'm always me. I'm always this. What you see is what you get. Um, and what I had always with the memory recalls is weird terminology, medical, technical, whatever technology. I'm like, I have a bit of an idea what it is, but not the complete story because the memory wipes did work for half of it, taking it away. So, biological drug serums. Because of Hashimoto's encephalopathy, I was getting worse, worse, and worse. I didn't have photographic memory anymore. Zip, that's the idiotic memory, photographic memory was gone. Like a normal human being. I'm like, I can't function like that. That's not how I am. I
I know that
have,
feeling. Do you know how hard it is to not be able to talk about what you can see?
yeah, exactly. And I was starting to lose that ability. So I'm like, okay, what is biological drug serums? And went into the hypnosis, tapped into that, and it's plasma therapy. It's human derived plasma therapy on Earth. That's the equivalent of some of the biological drug serums. And I remember from doing past lives regressions that I was an ET. My blood was blue and it could self regenerate itself to heal wounds and diseases within a couple of days. So some ETs have this as a natural ability. They have more plasma in their blood, and their blood is different color. So not for blue as in the elites. No, their blood was a different color. It was blue or green. And because they have more plasma, they can quickly regenerate their body.
Mhm.
That's what we humans lack. So I'm like, okay, well, now that I know that it's plasma therapy from the biological drug serums, what they gave me on Mars, a higher, more advanced equivalent, but it exists on Earth as plasma treatments. It's
Mhm.
called subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy. It's derived.
That's one of the treatments for advanced lupus.
Yes,
So
yes,
yes, I do know. You say the words, I know what you mean.
yeah,
I
and
cannot bring up the words myself.
yeah, and it's called SCIG or IVIG. It could be intravenously done or it could be
Mhm.
done subcutaneously. I had a huge infusion intravenously, but I had vomiting and joint pain and
Mm.
migraines after that because I had a huge dose done over 3 days. That
Yeah,
wasn't
I
going to
remember.
work for me.
I remember when you had that. You were so looking forward to it, and I was so frustrated for you when you were so sick after.
Yeah, but then I remembered hypnosis. Dermal injection of it under the skin. That's what dermal injection is. They gave it subcutaneously to me in my neck. And it's kind of like, a slow, um,
Like a drip.
well, no, it's like a pen type of a tool that they press a button and injects it under the skin. You don't feel
Okay.
it. It's not painful. I don't know how to call it. I don't know what the term is for this, but it looks like a small pen, or it's not. Doesn't look like a syringe. You press the button. A dermal. Okay, yes, I do know what it's called. It's called a dermal injector. Yes, I know the term. It just took a second for me to like, I have so many terms, it all spins through my brain. So the dermal injector, click a button, it goes in, and you don't feel it, it's painless. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't I do something similar like that? And it's on Earth, it's called subcutaneous immunoglobulin therapy. You have a syringe and you have a pump. You connect the two together with the injection needles. I prefer to inject myself in the stomach, and I do it every week. And it really keeps Hashimoto's encephalopathy under control. So I have my photographic memory back because of that plasma therapy and its biological drug serums. Because, like, you have your blood, you have your red blood and your white blood cells, red blood cells, then you have your plasma as well in the blood. And if you extract the plasma from the blood, it's two separate blood products now. You
Mhm.
could use plasma therapy for a lot of different autoimmune diseases
Mhm.
or, other immunodeficient diseases to regenerate and heal the body, give you more energy, more strength. And it
And
goes through
and
the blood
lupus
brain barrier. It goes through the blood brain barrier, it goes to your brain, actually.
in lupus, what they do on Earth, and I've been told this is in my future. What they do is they take out your own plasma and replace it with healthy plasma because lupus patients have immune factor against their own DNA. And so they take that out and replace it with healthy plasma that doesn't have that. And in some cases, it has reversed the disease process entirely.
So can I? It's called. I think the process is called plasmapheresis, where they take
Yes.
your own plasma out of their body. They have it go through a spinner and a filtration, and then they put your own plasma. It's clean now. The antibodies in the plasma is now clean, and they put it back into your body again.
Um, when I was told about it, I was told it was plasma from the blood bank.
Okay. Well, the other one option is called plasmapheresis. They take out your own plasma, filter it, clean it. Now it's clean antibodies. It's still your own. They put it back into your body if it's compatible. So that's another way of using your own plasma for healing once it's filtered and cleaned and the antibodies. What happens when during the filtration process your antibodies are cleaned out from all toxicity, from junk, from whatever. Because your own autoimmune system is self attacking you. It's
Yeah.
literally eating up the tissues, the cells in your body on a
Uh,
biological molecular structure inside your body. It's eating away at things inside you.
and for folks who are wondering why I have it, it's because I have a grandmother who is Native American, and this is actually very common among Native Americans.
Yeah, my nobody has Hashimoto's encephalopathy in my family. That was triggered by the whatever the reptilians did to my autoimmune system. That got triggered at 4.
Okay, we do have a question on the YouTube live
Sure.
feed. Um, Bhakta Peter asks if you can explain what planetary corporations is.
Well, planetary corporations is a lot of different corporations. They're aerospace contractors, they're corporate conglomerates that come together and they form planetary corporations. It's this one huge entity that has subcontractors and subcorporations attached to it that do a lot of different things.
Mm.
Okay, moving parts and cogs. From Earth, Lockheed Martin, Douglas and McDonald, Philco,
Deutsche
Boeing.
Bank,
Hmm?
Deutsche Bank,
Yes, NASA, GPL. Those are examples of some of.
Raytheon.
Mhm. Hmm?
Raytheon.
Raytheon, yes. There's a bunch of them. Merck.
I mentioned Raytheon because my prior guest, Eric Hecker, served with Raytheon in Antarctica.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely. Um, there's a lot of different ones that are affiliated with planetary corporations. But planetary corporations is the biggest one. that's that's a secret space program faction. It calls itself planetary corporations. It's the biggest conglomerate, but it has a bunch of different corporations under it and aerospace contractors
Mhm.
that provide things for it, whether from developing stuff on Earth to then put on Mars, or strictly for Mars and other planets. So it's not just any one specific corporation, it's a bunch of them that form the huge conglomerate called planetary corporations. I hope that explains. It's a bit weird, but that's what it is.
Now, my understanding is that the Earth-based versions of these companies, that there might be two, three people on the board of directors who know about planetary corporations, and the rest of the company is completely Earth-based.
Yeah, that's true. Some of them know what they're doing and some of them don't. It depends on which division of the corporation you're in and what you're doing. You might have full awareness and you might not of what you're doing, what you're even building to send off world and how it's done. They're thinking they're just building the next best thing of advanced human technology when it's not. It's just part of something else that gets transferred off world to the orbital space station platforms, and then it goes to the planets themselves, or it goes on the ship to the planet. We have the TR3Bs, TR3s, TR6s, 8s, 10s, the Auroras. We have a lot of different transport ships that are built by Planetary Corp, and they're used with stealth mode to transfer different things off planet. So it's you don't see the cloaked ships above our heads in the air traffic. They're all cloaked, so you don't see what gets transferred off when, where, and how.
Well, I'm noticing from contact from people. People are contacting me with photographs and absolutely panicking. And I'll look at it and it's a TR3B.
Yeah, those are very
Uh,
common.
those are Solar Warden, those are planetary corporations. Those are built by human beings,
Mm-hmm.
usually in America or Canada. And they are manned by human beings from Earth. They are not ET in the slightest. Or I will see photographs of the cylinder ships that are used in Nacht Waffen as transports. They're very, very obsolete technology, but the Germans have a policy of they use something until it can no longer be used.
Yeah, or they will retrofit it and fix it and then continue using it until it totally fails and the next model is given up the ladder to use. So it's
Yeah,
like nothing is ever wasted by these corporations.
no.
Planetary Corporation is all about building out technology, getting in the next best thing, but it doesn't just throw away what still works. They use it
Yeah.
at the lower levels of the industrial military complex
Well,
to.
in Nachtwaffen, you have the top level of military, which has the best and the newest.
Mhm.
And as each thing is made obsolete, it's passed down to colonies.
Mhm.
And usually the most isolated, what we would call on Earth rural, remote base, bases will get the worst stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the bases are still using computers that are 8-bit and using cardstock.
I'm
because
sorry.
because they still work.
I can't imagine that.
They're plugged into the newer tech.
Wow, I'm sorry, I can't imagine that. That's before my lifetime. Um, I don't
I,
even know DOS or any.
on Earth level, I was a programmer for Tulare County's 8-bit IBM 370.
That
you,
thing must have been huge.
um, it was about the size of the two bookshelves behind you,
That's about it from what I remember from that era. I'm never
and
used that before.
that was just the CPU. The printer was about the size of one of them and turned on its side, and so was the most noisy thing I have ever heard in my life. And
Well,
it had to be kept at 60 degrees or it would overheat. 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
yeah.
I don't even know what that is Celsius.
So, yeah, something interesting I noticed on Earth, you can't find a lot of replacement parts for old things. You can only buy new things to replace what's
Yeah,
broken, but you cannot replace a part. You constantly have to spend money on something new or something better.
that
If something old breaks, you can't just go and buy parts. With planetary corporations, they actually do have parts on standby, even for old stuff, because they give it to the lesser corporations that are part of their conglomerate.
they do that on Nacht Waffen too.
Yeah,
But on Earth, I believe it was in the 1980s, maybe earlier, that there was a conscious decision to use something called planned obsolescence in order to maintain a manufacturing economy. And then in so that would be Reagan administration or earlier in American terms. And then in the NAFTA agreements, manufacturing was basically shipped to Mexico and then out of North America entirely. And that has been the creation of poverty and unemployment and decline in both the United States and Canada.
yeah, and also one of the largest corporations that also did research about UFOs, Northrop Grumman. Um, all these corporations were doing kind of like experiments on reverse engineered craft, how to build them out themselves. Northrop Grumman, Douglas and McDonald, um, Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, Boeing. Again, some of their divisions are quite aware of what they're reverse engineering and sending off world or using for testing in underground bases or on Area 51. All the underground facilities. You're not going to see them building out this stuff on the surface facilities. It's underground
Mm-hmm.
because you can't infiltrate it. You can't infiltrate their underground facilities. You might be able to break in somehow to the surface level facility and have a look around. You'll be arrested on site, even if you manage to somehow storm the dang facility. You'll be arrested and just taken or carted away.
Mm-hmm.
The good stuff is always underground. It's not in the surface facilities. The reverse engineered ship is not just going to be parked out in some hangar inside the facility. It's
Yeah.
underground.
Um, we're getting to the time frame to discuss your new book.
Yes. Oh, thank you. It's called Crystal Grids, The Art of Healing with Crystals. So you learn everything you need about what crystals are, how to work with them, how to buy them, how to heal with them. You also learn about how to make crystal grids with crystals. So you have a bunch of different crystals put together. It can help you with energy healing. It could help you with manifestation because we also do words of power. I teach you how to do manifestations from above, so below, how to manifest from the etheric down to the physical with words and symbols. I teach sacred geometry. I also teach about how to healing the chakras, what energy healing is, and what meditation is with or without crystals. And also the book itself is like a giant encyclopedia about the different types of crystals. I have a huge list and what the metaphysical properties and healing properties of crystals are, gem elixirs. So, and also how to cleanse the crystals, clean them, how to create crystal kits, work with different crystals for healing. Um, so that's what the book is basically about. The paperback version is on Amazon, and to buy a PDF copy, you can go to Messages from a Star Traveler in the book section, and you can buy it. Like, you can just use PayPal to buy it, and then I send you the copy, the digital PDF copy. So that's how you can get the book. Two different versions: paperback on Amazon, PDF on my website. And the reason why I don't have an ebook on Amazon is because there's a lot of images and a lot of diagrams in my book. So it's the best version is in PDF, and it's very very digital. There's a lot of not just written content but visual content to support the written material. So that's why it's in PDF ebook format through my own website and not Amazon. If somebody wonders, like, why can't you get an ebook out on Amazon? Because it's not converting correctly.
Yeah, some of the, I've been working on a book based on the question of why did the Germans leave Earth, and I'm having a terrible time with the software. It will not keep the graphics with the correct part of the text. It just jumps around all over the place, and I'm spending more time keeping the graphics with the text than I am anything else, and it's just completely frustrating. And I have 30 pages written and probably 30 graphics in it, and it's frustrating, irritating, and that's the software that publishers want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when writing books, it's recommended you don't use a lot of graphics, that you do text and that you do headers, and that's about it. That's how most books are produced. So you have your cover and you have your written book and text manuscript, and that's what you turn in. But this Crystal Grids, the art of healing with crystals, is all about healing with crystals. So you have the written material, which is huge, and you have the diagrams and the images to help visually explain what the written stuff is. So this book cannot, it's an encyclopedia of 350 pages, so it cannot just simply be text. It has to have the graphics, the diagrams, and the text together. I had no problem publishing it as a paperback on Amazon. Like, within a day, the PDF is high quality, so it accepted that for printing. But the ebook, it just doesn't translate well into EPUB and the MOBI. It just ruins the graphics and misaligns everything that has to do with graphics. So I'm like, okay, Amazon published it in print. I could sell it in PDF. Anybody who's interested, just contact me on Messages from a Star Traveler with the email of seekingthetruthintreality@gmail.com, and just I'll send you the book. You buy it through the PayPal button on my website, and I send it to you right away, and you have a high quality resolution PDF that you can read on any digital device. This PDF is easy to read everywhere. It's one of the ebook first formats that's been used everywhere. I also do healing through Messages through a Star Traveler.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up.
Yeah, I do energy healing, I do Reiki, and it's hands off healing that can be done through Zoom sessions, one on one, and it could be done through long distance. You don't have to be physically there to actually receive the healing. You receive the healing always because it's energy healing, it's Reiki. Energy passes through no matter what, whether there is physical proximity or not. I also do psychic readings, past life regression, um,
I was
soul
hoping you
retrieval.
would bring. I was hoping you would bring up the remote view of memories.
Well, I do remote viewing where I purely remote view somebody else's memories, but what I also prefer is the hypnosis because in hypnosis, we create the questions that you need answers for about your SSP. It could be about anything. And then through hypnosis, we tap into your deep subconscious memories and get answers. Remote viewing is good, but it's a lot longer process for me because I psychically have to walk through your memories in your brain and get that information out. So it takes about a week or two. With the hypnosis, we formulate your questions and it's done in a 2-3 hour hypnosis session, and you have a lot of information about your deep subconscious memories that I could either remote view, which takes longer, or we could get it done through hypnosis. You'll still get the same quality of information, except you get it faster. And we're still walking through your memories no matter which technique we use. I also do soul retrieval where I integrate missing parts of the soul fragments. We go back or forward wherever you have trauma and we reintegrate parts of the soul pieces back as a whole for your healing. I do past life regression where you're in a gentle trance like state in a meditation type environment. And through the past life regression protocol, we go back into your past lives and get information about those as well. So I do a bunch of different stuff, and I'm also planning a psychic development course that's in the works. So I'm creating that, and all of that can be found through Messages from a Star Traveler
Now,
online.
is that a website or is that a Facebook group?
It's a Facebook group and it's a website. And you can find me also at Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, which is my YouTube channel, where a lot of my video disclosure comes out.
Okay, we have about 20 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you really wanted to talk about?
Whatever you want to ask me, I'll dive deep with you on it. Because I think I've talked about a lot of, I don't usually talk about Nacht Waffen because that's the assassin part of the work. You know, if somebody needed to be taken out quietly, covertly, they would have the assassin wearing the smart suit, doesn't matter male, female. They come in, it's called the cleanup. It's called the cleanup work. They come in quietly, remove the problem, take out what needs to be taken out, either through killing the person if the person is evil and vile and is causing problems in whatever faction of the SSP. The assassin is, they take it out, and Nacht Waffen does have assassins. So they take out the problem children, so to speak, the problem child. Not children, vile adults and pedophiles and criminals. And even the SSP factions have psychopaths that they train specifically for weird, crappy shit that they're programmed to do. They do have that. And when those guys get out of control, the assassins take them out one way or the other. They get removed. So that's something I did in the SSP in Nacht Waffen.
I had one trip where I ended up spaced. So, but they put a rope around me before they did and then hauled me back and dumped me in the regen tank.
Yeah.
Because they still needed a navigator.
Yeah, and the assassins are not seen, heard, or discovered. They quietly go about doing their work in the background, taking out whatever needs taking out, stopping something. They do more than just killing or assassinating or removing. They
Mhm.
stop false flag events as well. So it's not just murder and mayhem and cleaning up that kind of stuff. They also stop certain events from happening. So that was my
So
Nacht
it's
Waffen.
so it's more like what the mafia calls a mechanic, or
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Or a cleaner. If
yeah.
the correct terminology is a cleaner or a fixer, I just call it an SSP assassin. That's the best terminology that I could think of, and that's what I did for Nachtwaffen. And I worked on the ships as well on some of the Nachtwaffen cigar craft, the elongated craft. I did negotiations for peace brokering. Um, Somebody did something horrid and caused a riot, and 10 million people were killed on a planet, or stole something from some other planet and it wasn't returned. It's like, oh boy, one side blames the other. I would be called in as the mediator or negotiator to iron out the details to fix it. So again, fixer, cleaner, assassin, that's what I did for Nachtwaffen. So that's briefly what I can talk about. I remember seeing bloody hands dismembered with
Hmm.
the nerves and the cords from their hands hanging. And I remember seeing wet rooms where people were swimming in their own blood. It was filled with water. They were swimming in their own blood on the Nachtwaffen barge ships, and electromagnetic torture um, as part of the interrogations, witnessing that. So those are some of the Nachtwaffen memories I have. Their
Well, I've never
barge.
said that we were the good guys.
No, no, no,
I've
no.
just said we aren't Nazis.
We're no, no, never a Nazi. I was never that. But they have prison barge ships. Nacht
Yes,
often
they do.
has those. If you're out of line, you misbehave, you could be jammed into one of those, and it's a nightmare.
Hmm.
They'll cut
It's
your
a
hands off.
it's a deliberate nightmare because they
Yes.
want it to be bad enough that their people don't do that stuff.
They don't transgress again. They'll chop your hands off, and you don't. It's so painful. The nerves are degenerated, degraded. They'll mutilate you to teach you the lesson. You'll swim in your own blood, whatever. They'll dump you into a regeneration tank afterwards, but
Hmm.
they'll allow you to keep the memories of the painful torture and the decapitation, so you don't
Well,
transgress again in whatever
Nacht,
indiscretion you were involved in.
Nachtwaffen's regeneration does not remove memory and it does not fix alters.
No.
So, whatever trauma you have stored in your psyche is there. Their technology cannot fix that. So, if you have become so damaged that you're catatonic or so pathological that you're a uncontrollable danger to others, they don't have a lot of options because they can't fix you.
And for
So,
that, that's why they have the assassins to quietly take care of the problem, never to be seen again. And they
yeah.
don't care where the body is disintegrated, destroyed, taken out, as long as it's done quietly and cleanly, and it'll never be discovered. You were never there. You never did that, but you did it and you covered it up, and it's gone. That's how Nachtwaffen takes care of some of its uncontrollable business
Hmm.
when it gets out of hand. That's why they have their assassins who covertly take out what needs to be taken out and take care of the problem. And then it's untraceable. You can't be traced back to the assassins. That's how good they are. And I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. I'm not over exaggerating it. It was what it was, and this is what I'm describing, remembering the memories of this. And a couple of shows ago, I was asked, do you think you killed somebody? And I said, no, I'm not sure. I think I did kill people. and I tortured people and I interrogated people. I do have bits and flashes of those memories from Nacht Waffen, so it is what it is.
I have bleed over from a CIA assassin altar, and that's the material of nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
And some of y'all know who Peter the Insider is, and he gives summaries of your files from ACIO, and he told me 3 years ago that that altar had a confirmed kill rate of 537 men. So I know she has killed, but she is not yet integrated into me. And so I can still treat her as another person. If the time comes that she's ever integrated, then I will have to deal with the guilt of what she has done.
Yeah. I've put, because I'm a psychic, so I've put self-programming so I don't dream and get bleed through memory recalls of nightmarish type category stuff that I did in the SSP. So I block that out on purpose. So I don't get that recalled when I'm sleeping. That's something I can do as a psychic. Because the reason why I was taken into planetary corporations as an SSP asset is because of my psionic abilities. Sometimes I have moments of precognition where I can see the future. I can see people's memories. That's called galactic soul readings, where I actually can go into their galactic past lives, and see their ET lifetimes. And the memory Ingram stations that planetary corporations has allow them to see your ET past lifetimes and what you did. And they use that information to data mine how to build advanced technologies, terraform planets. So that's
I
something.
have I have memories of when my past lives were read both by the CIA at Langley and again by the Germans on Mars. So I don't have so much, well, I do have some past life memories, but I have memories of the readings because they brought it up and I was conscious during the process.
Yeah, well, the galactic soul readings that I do, it's a report of your past lives as ETs, and it's given to you as an emailed report. But on planetary corporations, they actually had physical memory engram stations that you would lie on,
Mm.
and it would holographically scan all your ET, all your important ET past lives where you worked with advanced technology, you did something important that they wanted to know about, so they would scan through cellular memory holographically those memories, and it would be recorded video through video audio holographically as if it was a live event happening into their databases, holographic databases, and they could just replay that memory as much as they want and have it saved in the database, for future access if they need it. So they have that technology as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's.
I remember the guy at the CIA cussing because he says we can't find the end. So
Yeah,
that was like, really, as a child I was like, so what? But as an adult looking back on the memory, it's like that's weird.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have access to build the holographic medical pods. I don't have access to build the memory Ingram stations, which can also do memory wiping and erase your whole memory of who you are and replace it with insert memories or fake memories or half memories. So that
I
technology
can't
is
I can't
dangerous.
I can't imagine trying to live with fake memories inserted. Although there are folks who think that's what I've got.
Well, I know I don't have fake memories because what I have is very specific to what I did as work there, and the medical knowledge that I have. I've been from Planetary Corp. I've been able to integrate that into using biological drug serums on myself on Earth for healing. So I know it's not fake memories because it's very specific knowledge that I have and what I worked with and why. I know
Well,
it's not fake.
I don't think mine are fake because technologies that I described in 2016 and 2017 when I first came public are now being declassified and put into the public
Mhm.
through the
um,
media.
and Elon Musk's Neuralink implants sounds a little similar to Neuralink implants, except Neuralink is 200 to 300 years more advanced than Neuralink, which Elon Musk is just experimenting with.
Well, I've said from my very first interview that I had a chip inserted into my skull behind my left ear, and that it was approximately the size of a Bluetooth, and that it connected me to the ship's computer, both on my initial fighter plane and then later the freighter, that I was pilot slash navigator for both.
There you
So
go. And the
I
neural
said that from my very first interview in September 2016.
and in 2016-17, I did presentations about the Neuralink implants in my brain being
Mhm.
able to connect to various databases, holographic and non-holographic, on the Mars um, base basis and in the cybernetics labs as well. The Neuralink implants, I had 4 of them in the brain that they hook up to technology, to databases, and it could hook up to ships to pilot the ship. It hooks up to the navigation system, and you remotely pilot the ship and test the new development on the enhancements in the Neuralink implants. And the biological human cyborgs, they're augmented with nanotechnology. They're not all pure cyborg parts. They have human organs, they still have a human brain. They're just augmented with nanotechnology and those Neuralink implants to make them stronger, faster, more intelligent, to augment their psionic abilities. But you're still a
Okay,
human being.
I have a question because
Mm-hmm.
I know the mercenary group Kruger uses augments on all of their assets
Mm-hmm.
to the point that the Borg in Star Trek are actually based on them.
Yes.
They are so augmented that many of them no longer look human. So, what is the difference between an augmented human and a robotic cyborg?
Well, that's why I call robotic cyborgs are mostly humans that were like made parts still of the human, but merged with the cybernetics completely. The biological human cyborg, on the outside, they have skin, they have everything like we humans do, but they have cybernetic parts inside them. Neuralink implants and nano augment cybernetics, but they still have all their organs intact. A cyborg is made out of different body parts, but meshed with mostly cybernetic technology, advanced technology. It still has a skin layer. So they all look human. It's just a difference between whether you're mostly cyborg or you're augmented in a biological human cyborg. It's all about how many cybernetic parts you have, more or less. So that's the difference, really. At least for planetary corporations, how they do that. But
Okay.
you always, it's more of internal hardware than external cybernetics. You always look human. You don't, like, you blend in. You look like me and you look human. It's internally what's been changed. But your The reason why you look human is so you can blend in anywhere and everywhere. You can go anywhere, infiltrate anything.
Where in Das Bundes, the German space civilization, where the civilians are, their cyborgs are more like in the movie Battle Angel, where they are very machine-like to the point that the civilian population doesn't realize there are any human parts to them.
No, Planetary Corporation still likes to keep the humanoid looking aspect because there's a lot of humanoid ETs out there. 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and skin. Doesn't matter what color your skin, height, whatever. Still considered humanoid. So the humanoid body factor, all that, planetary corporations, you still have to look externally humanoid, no matter what's internally, whether that's super cybernized or cybernized augmented, you still have this visage because you can easily blend in among humanoid ET species. And nobody wouldn't know the difference that you're a walking, talking, biological human cyborg and that you're augmented to the nines internally and can do a lot more things than the average human. That's the beauty of hiding in plain sight. You're not going to be recognized as a biological human cyborg because they can't tell the difference externally what you are. It's done to blend in perfectly to do whatever you need to do.
Now, can someone with psi abilities tell the difference?
No, they can't, because biological human cyborg still thinks like a human, acts like a human, and does everyday human things, except they're stronger, they're faster, and more intelligent than the average human who is not augmented with anything. So honestly, I don't think I'd be able to tell you the difference whether you're a biological human cyborg or just a normal human just walking on the street scanning you, because you still have normal thoughts of a human, emotions of a human, and you have a soul. It's like, oh, okay. The only difference I can tell is between ETs because their energetics are different. They don't think like us per se. So I could sometimes tell whether it's a human or an ET psychically, but honestly,
I spoke at a conference in Vegas in 2019. And I was approached by a couple of tall whites in disguise, and I immediately knew by the energetics that they were not human.
Yeah.
But what was interesting to me was how many other humans at the conference thought they were completely human.
Well, usually ET energy just feels different. Like there's something more to them than humans. Just energetically, the feeling coming off of them is so much stronger than standard humans. You're like, oh, that's an ET because their energy field feels so different from us humans on Earth or human ET hybrids. Also, the energy feels different. I'm an ET human hybrid. I'm an L race hybrid, coming from the L race and part human because I was born into this human body for this lifetime. So for me, I don't consider myself fully human because I know I'm a hybrid. So I sometimes I think like an ET and not a human anymore. It's just my ET genetics is taking over more so than the human aspect of me. So
I'm a watered down hybrid. My hybrid line has been here so long and has crossbred with normals for so many generations that the hybrids here consider me human. but the humans consider me not one of them either. And so I'm in this no man's land of watered down. And then the CIA added their genetic stew to the mix. So I don't consider myself a normal, but I am still mostly human. And so my loyalty is to humanity. And I want to thank you for coming on my show. I think it's the time we're supposed to tell people about the show coming up. I believe it's called Goddesses and Demons, and our producer's wife, Katie Camara, is one of the hosts for it. So if you're listening, stay tuned.